So let's get started here. This week's topic, which I feel was really fitting to do the smoothies today, is metabolism. So factors that influence our metabolism and our weight. I know that this is an issue for a lot of women. You know, not only does the media push us to be thin, but each other and all that great stuff. So how can we, here we go, learn more about metabolism and what it means so that we can affect it in a positive way? So the technical, and I always feel like I'm in your way, Gail.
No, you're fine.
So the technical definition is it's more than just calories you burn, right? A lot of people think calories in, calories out, and that's that. If you eat more calories than you burn, you gain weight, which is not always the case. Okay, that's a big misnomer. So it's actually how your body chemistry works. The communication between your pituitary, your thyroid, and then the rest of your body, your gonads and your adrenal glands and things like that. That is metabolism. We do, ovaries.
It's called gonads?
Yeah.
That was only a guy's term.
Wait, tell me that.
Testes and ovaries. So if you think about what testes are, they hang differently, but they're in the exact same thing as our ovaries. Our ovaries are internal, theirs are external. That's the only difference. Yeah.
So now we can say.
Yeah.
Sorry to catch you off guard. Wow. This is great. It's going to be on YouTube. Okay. So just so you know, should I have said what? Oh, I'll just say ovaries from now on. Not gonads. Let's strip that from the list of words. Okay. So it's how the liver, the thyroid, the GI, adrenals, pancreas, water you drink, food you eat, oxygen you breathe, genetics you have, everything combined. There's so many things combined. If I took 2 separate women, even 20 separate women, and I gave them the same calories in and the same workout, they wouldn't burn the same calories out. They wouldn't genes would be turned on and off and regulated. They wouldn't release the exact same amount of thyroid hormone or cortisol or anything to stimulate any other system in the body. Everybody is really unique. So again, it's not so one-dimensional that it's calories in, calories out. We have to consider all of the other variables.
So how do you figure that out? Like, how do you figure that out?
Figure what out?
Well, your metabolism. Do you do something you said with your glands and this?
Yeah.
And that?
So there's
so
a
lot. Blood work.
So the first line of defense is thyroid panel, just to see how your pituitary is communicating to your thyroid. Is this an open dialogue? And then is there an open dialogue from the thyroid to the rest of the body? Because it's a feedback loop. So I'm going to give you the baton, you give the body the baton. Is the body giving the pituitary back the baton? And that's usually the biggest jump and the problem, is that's not being activated. So here, and then they drop the ball. So how do we get it back up to here? It's the feedback loop, right? So you want to check to see how your thyroid, but all aspects, not just thyroid stimulating hormone, but all the way down in that process, right? At every level we test. There's another test called 23andMe that checks for your genetic version of how you actually metabolize things. Some people can't metabolize NSAIDs or aspirin, Tylenol, Advil, all those things. Some people totally can. That's your genetic makeup. Are you a fast metabolizer? I metabolize caffeine more quickly than the average Joe, pun intended, but I metabolize other foods slower, right? And so it's understanding your specific chemistry. That test is $100, and you know all about not just how you metabolize things, but all of your potential health issues, like your chances of Parkinson's, different cancers, different, neurological issues, body issues. So all of those things, that gives you a blueprint and an idea, right? On top of the standard, what's in your serum right now? What's pumping through your body right now? In addition to that, what I always recommend is that log she made. Keeping track of your foods, keeping track of your bowel movements, so that lets me know your bowel transit time. I ate and 3 hours later I went to the bathroom versus I ate and 16 hours I went to the bathroom. 12 to 16 hours is average bowel transit time for a meal. So are you a quick digester, a slow digester? In addition to heart rate, how long does it take you to get to a certain target heart rate, and how long can you sustain that heart rate? And then how many calories did you burn, right? Generally speaking, when we track that a handful of times, I can get to know your pattern, okay? So genetically, you're a slow metabolizer of, let's say, macronutrients like carbohydrates, right? And in your lab test, it shows me that your thyroid stimulating hormone is a little high. This is yelling at the rest of the body to turn on, but it's not getting that feedback loop it needs to say, okay, I have enough is enough, right? So that's turned up. And then it takes you a little bit longer to get to a target heart rate to burn even less calories than the average person, whatever that means. That gives me the perfect picture of you, your digestive pattern, your metabolic pattern, and then I can better work to manipulate that. Give you cofactors and herbs and nutrients and B vitamins and iodine and all these things to help open up pathways, right? And upregulate or downregulate certain genes. So it's just like figuring out the roadmap and then what's the best path to take. That's really how I, with all my patients, and it's a process. You don't do that in 2 weeks, like that again, this is lifestyle. This isn't like I need to lose weight in the next 6 weeks for a wedding and then I'm good. That's good motivation sometimes to get you, above the precipice, but to create a really sound foundation of lifestyle, that's what it takes, is knowing yourself. Because without knowing ourselves, we don't know the necessary steps to take to get to the future self that we'd like to be, right? So that's really the way that I go about doing it with my patients. Sorry for tangenting. I know that's a lot of info. So the basics of metabolism, jumping back into the slideshow. So the food we eat obviously contains energy, right? Calories. If you guys were here for the last Lunch and Learn, I don't know if you were, but we talked about macro and micronutrients. The macros being big, and that is carbs, proteins, and fats, okay? And they each contain calories. So you can see it takes 4 calories to burn 1 gram of protein, 4 for 1 gram of carbohydrates, and 9 for 1 gram of fat. And in the POW, I actually included 1 gram of alcohol, right? Because that's kind of a lot of people's pastimes to burn stress or like at the end of a long day. That's actually 7 calories per gram of alcohol. So if you're eating great all day, but then you have a half bottle of wine at night, we have to take that into consideration. That's part of your diet and caloric intake, okay? So that basically means that the body has to raise its core temperature, like the way calories are measured are in joules or kcals, right? So it takes this much energy, or when we say, I have to burn that fat, burn that calorie, that's actually internally, we're raising the core body temperature to be able to turn on the utilization of stored nutrients to break this down for use, okay? So that's what that means. Calories is burning internal core temperature to be able to utilize 1 gram of each of these to use for energy or to turn on ATP production in our cells. And that's kind of like money to our cells, to our biology, is ATP. Give me $1, you'll give me, this thing in exchange. So the body's like, hey cell, I have 1 unit of ATP. Okay, now I can metabolize stuff and I can excrete stuff and do what I need to do because I have gas in my tank. And that's ATP. That's its exchange rate. So proteins break down to amino acids. Amino acids are building blocks of everything. They create tissues. They create rebuilding when damage is done in the body. Carbohydrates are sugars. We need sugars. Sugars in excess is bad. Sugars to a certain point is necessary. That is how our brain thinks. It uses glucose. Not every part of the body needs the exact same form of energy. To work out, we need protein, right? Because we're rebuilding muscle and tissue. To repair, we need protein. To think straight and concentrate, we need glucose. So a lot of times when people feel brain fog, they're like, well, I need that donut to keep me up, or that cup of coffee with sugar and caffeine. What they're trying to do on some level, which gets lost in the shuffle, is trying to listen to their brain's trigger of, hey, I need more sugar to function, okay? So instead of eating an apple and nut butter, though, we go for instant gratifiers, right? So we get the sugar we need right away, but we tend to eat more than our body actually needs. So what does it do with that excess? It stores it in places we love to hold on to, okay? That's what's happening there. So then with fat or triglycerides, that turns into fatty acids. Fatty acids are also building blocks. They're used to fight inflammation. They're used to build cartilage and joints. They add to synovial fluid, the integrity of the body and how it stands. It wraps our myelin sheaths in our neuronets in our brain, so how our brain communicates and creates new connections. It needs fatty acids to be able to do that, okay? Fatty acids are essential. Please, no fat-free, no sugar-free. Fat conscious, sugar conscious, okay? So any questions on this slide?
What's an example of fatty acids?
Omega-3 is fish oil, salmons, nut butters, nuts and seeds, coconut oil, avocado oil. All that stuff is going to break down into fatty acids, lubricate joints, blood vessels, help build brain connectivity. Good question. So we have two types, metabolism. We have anabolism, catabolism. Does anybody know the difference without looking ahead? No? Okay. That's okay. At least you're honest. Yeah, that's great. Most people haven't, so that's totally fine. So it's a balancing act, really, and it's involving breaking stuff down and storing stuff at the rate that we need it, right? So building up body tissues, energy stores, and then breaking down body tissues and energy stores. Body tissues can be fat when we break that down. And building up, I prefer to think of healing a broken bone, building up muscle integrity and strength, building more collagen in our skin to give us, to heal wounds, scrapes, wrinkles, anything like that type of damage, right? So we have anabolism. This is constructive metabolism. This is when we're building and storing, okay? So if we need 50 grams of protein a day and we eat 70, we're building after 50 up until that 70, we're storing. Okay, so this is why anabolism is why people gain weight when they think they're eating right, with like the Splenda and things like that, right? Just as an example, no judgment.
It's okay.
But what's happening is we're craving more when we use sugar substitutes, so we eat more than our body actually needs. So we actually skip this step in building and go straight to storing, okay? And that is what excess weight is. That is when we can't have enough energy to actually move to create catabolism, which is the destruction, which is kind of a badly connotated word, but it basically means we're producing energy for our cell to be itself, for any activity the cell needs. Take good stuff in, turn genes on, turn genes off, make ATP or currency, right? And excrete the bad stuff it doesn't need to go into circulation, for stuff to filter, and for us to excrete ourselves. That is why we need catabolism. So we're constantly in one state or the other. When we say we have low blood sugar, we are here, right? We are destroying, breaking down anything that we have stored from anabolism. We're breaking down in catabolism because we don't have food right away in the GI tract or stomach, or we haven't had a snack or something in a long time. So our body's like, hey, it's lacking in our circulation. So A, either eat something, or B, I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to use energy from here, or from somewhere else that I've stored, right? And in most cases, we use carbs first or stored sugar. That's the body's preference because it's the easiest to get to and break down. Then we choose to go for fat, and last but not least, we go to proteins or muscles. So when you see somebody having wasting syndrome because of AIDS or cancer or chemo, their body has bypassed those first two carbs, fats, and gone into protein now. Now it's digesting its own muscle. So if we have a cast on our leg and we don't use it for weeks at a time, then we take it off and, oh my gosh, this leg is like a size 6, this is a size 10, what's going on? That was not constructing new muscle or adding to that tissue. That leg was not being utilized. So the body utilized it for energy. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay, cool. So now we know the difference. So we're always in one or the other. So everybody asks, well, what did my thyroid have to do with it? Why do we check the thyroid? Thyroid. And thyroid is an integrative step in the whole process of metabolism, but it's not the only step, okay? It's kind of like the choir director, but you need the singers, you need the group members in order to make it all work, okay? So it's the same idea. Most people want to look here, but for me as a naturopath, you're a whole person, you're a whole system. So I look here. So what's happening in the entire process? So you can kind of see what I was talking about when I was pointing through, passing the baton. Hypothalamus to the pituitary, to the thyroid gland, to circulation to be turned on when it needs to be used for all these different organs and tissues. And then when they say, okay, I've had enough, it sends it to the brain saying, okay, we've had enough. You don't have to keep making it. But if this step never happens, it never says, hey, I've had enough. It's like, oh, we still got to put out more stuff up here. So this increases activity and this increases activity. So when your TSH or your thyroid hormone is really high, it's because your brain is saying, hey, make more, because they're not getting the translation. They're not getting enough of that ingredient. We need to function. So this jacks up, trying to scream to the rest of the body, hey, turn on. Am I making enough? Am I making enough? And as soon as it does, then it can start telling the hypothalamus and pituitary, okay, enough, I'm satiated now. Okay? So that's what happens in hypothyroid. And hyper, right? ADHD, when we think of hyper, too much. That means that it's saying too much. It's saying, oh, I have enough, I have way more than enough, please stop. So then this stops functioning. And the thyroid is not putting out enough hormone. It's actually putting low hormone because it just has to whisper to the body like, hey, function. And then it turns on. Versus hypothyroid, it's like, wake up, what are you doing? You know? And that, wake up, what are you doing? You're asleep. Sluggishness, weight gain, hair loss, constipation. Those are all clinical presentation of hypothyroid. So logic says the inverse would be hyperthyroid. People who have anxiety, insomnia, diarrhea, who are really skinny or burn through things really quickly. I just can't gain weight. No matter what I do, I can't gain weight. Number one thing, let's check thyroid, right? So without getting too technical or jargony, several of the hormones of the endocrine system are involved, okay? T4 is the most active, and that's the hormone produced and released by that thyroid gland, right? Plays a key role in determining how fast or slow the chemical reactions of metabolism proceed in the body. So if we don't have enough, we're not going to metabolize at a good rate. If we have too much, we're going to metabolize too quickly. That whole skinny, insomnia, anxiety picture, right? The really high vibration state. So the pancreas. Anybody here have diabetes or know anyone who has diabetes? Yeah, right? So this is the role of the pancreas. So pancreas secretes hormones, primarily insulin, along with a lot of others though. And that determines whether the body's main metabolic activity at a particular time is anabolic or catabolic. Okay, whether we're storing or burning. That's really the pancreas's job. So the biggest take home for this is to realize that the pancreas is what stimulates the production of insulin. Insulin is kind of like the bouncer to the cells. He says, all right, blood sugar, come on in. Or, nope, we have enough. We don't need you. Okay? He is the regulator of what sugar gets in the cell and what stays in circulation. So if my body is producing a lot of insulin and we're all standing at the gate of the door and the insulin's just not working, it's not doing its job, it's just on a cigarette break, let's say, something like that, then the sugar can't get in the cell because the bouncer's not doing its job. It's just kind of staying out in circulation. So we have high blood sugar in diabetics, right? They can't control their blood sugar because their body is on break. The insulin isn't binding. The insulin isn't working, saying, hey, blood sugar, go into the cell. So it's staying in circulation. So we're feeling faint, or we're losing weight, or we're gaining weight, or our body is all over the place. Metabolism is confused and not sure what to do. And that's because insulin and the pancreas aren't working correctly. So here we have beta cells, insulin. Body cells take up blood sugar, ideally. The liver takes up sugar, right? Stores it in the form of glycogen. So that's the whole, I'm exhausted, I haven't eaten all day. Well, that's what we're going to start burning so that you can think straight and not keel over, right? So it either uses it, puts it in the cell, or sends it to the liver to store it, okay? And either way, blood glucose levels should decline because now I'm taking it out of the blood and putting it into the cell. Taking the car off of the highway and putting it into the parking lot, okay? So if that's not happening, then homeostasis can't happen. There's too many cars on the highway. You get traffic jam, nothing is working, right? And so we have too much glucose in the blood, not enough in the cell being used, so then we have signs of diabetes, okay? So that's why we see a lot of side effects of this kind of clinical picture with diabetics having to do with circulation. They get neuropathy in their hands and feet. They get gangrene. They have to have things amputated. They get lightheaded. They gain too much weight, or they're just losing weight and they don't know how or why. Okay, so those types of clinical pictures are what we see when we're thinking prediabetes or diabetes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About the cannibalism versus, is it catabolism?
Catabolism.
Metabolism. So how fast can you jump back and forth from those two stages? Like you said, you're either in one or you're in the other. Can you be in, like, in a whole day, could you be in both? Does that make sense?
So
Is your body always just in one or the other?
it's usually one or the other. But,
Okay.
well, you know, it can actually be in tandem. So maybe my brain is burning glucose that I've just eaten to think straight, but I worked out earlier and had protein, and so I just had protein and sugar at my lunch. And so my body's like, I'll store the protein for later because you already had a lot of protein earlier today, so I'm going to store that. But the sugar you just ate, I need to problem solve at this meeting this afternoon. So it's doing both catabolism, burning or destructing, using it for brain, and anabolism, or storing the protein for later use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it can be in tandem. It's not usually all one or all the other. I mean, could you imagine if like our body was all using energy or all not? Like that would be exhausting. But yeah, great question. So this is your biochemistry. This is what we have to learn in med school. This turns into this, turns on that, but only if the enzyme's there, because if the enzyme's not there, then it turns into this, then it turns into that. So we have a lot of processes going on at once. We are our own walking universes. We're constantly, even just sitting here listening to me, having other thoughts or being present or whatever it is, breathing and your heart pumping, this is all going on still. So this is the stuff that, to me, is pure gold for us to like work at explaining and educating for you. Because once you know these processes in that blueprint we were talking about earlier, well, you know how to work with it and around it. Weekly exercise. Okay, so this is an activity. Everybody ready? You love my activities, I know you do. Okay, so calculating our basal metabolic rate. Does anybody know what that means, basal metabolic rate? We kind of touched on it in a couple POWs, and I think I mentioned it in a here or there. Kind of, sort of? Okay. So if you laid in bed all day, you did absolutely nothing, but laid there and breathed, your heart beat your blood through your body, your brain had thoughts and dreams, you slept, your tissues regenerated, your eyes blinked, all of those things just to stay alive. You're not problem solving, you're not getting up to go to the bathroom, you're not doing anything. That's your basal metabolic rate. How many calories does it take just to keep you alive? That's it. Like when people are in comas in the hospital, they still have to eat food. They still get nutrient IVs and calorie IVs, right? They have to because you need calories just to sit there and breathe. So it's yours. Everybody's is a little different. So we're going to calculate it, okay? The amount of energy expended at rest. In other words, how many calories does it take for you to breathe, maintain body temperature, think, keep your heart beating? Overall homeostasis. So for women, we're going to do 10 times our weight in kilograms. And I know that's tough. So we're going to take pounds and divide by 2.2. Calculators, anyone?
Yep.
Everybody's grabbing one.
Divide by 2.2.
Yep. And that'll give you kilograms. So
2.2. Divide by 2.2.
I can do mine just for example. So I weigh 155. Wow, what is that? 5? Oh wow, it's way off.
70.45.
For this?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was way off. 70.45?
Yeah.
Okay. So I weigh 70.45 kilograms. And that's from 155 pounds. Okay. So then the next step is I'm going to add 6.25 times my height. Okay, and the height is going to be in centimeters. I know, this is European stuff, guys. But it's worldwide. We're the only ones who don't use metric.
Yeah, what is it in one?
So
6.25 times.
So 6.25, but first I have to figure out my height in centimeters. So 2.54 is the conversion, and I am 68 inches. Anybody want to do that for me?
And we'll start it.
How do you do that?
I know.
I'm
I can do it.
72.72. Yeah.
72.72.
6.25 times
How tall
my
are you?
So this is my height in inches. So, as a good rule of thumb, know that 5 feet is always 60 inches. So most of us here are 5 something, right? I'm 5'8". So I did 60 plus 8 is 68 inches. So that's how tall I am. And then I took my inches and I multiplied it by centimeters to find out my metric. So my metric height is 172.72. So 5 feet is 60 inches. You're 5'5"?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
50.
5 and 3/4.
Okay,
No.
so
So
50.
it's
So let's do 56 for you. How tall are you? Okay, so you're 55. So what we're doing is taking feet, turning it into inches, and then turning that into
Wait, would it be
centimeters.
65?
60, yeah. That's what
Okay, I'm like.
Alright, yeah, I was gonna say, wait.
Thank you for
So
calling
do
me
we-
out.
Then times it by
I'm just like-
2.54?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that will give you your centimeters in height. Does everybody get that so far? Okay. So then you take your centimeters and you multiply by 6.25. Does anybody want to do that for me? Just for the example's sake.
What am I doing? Sorry.
So this is your
Okay,
height
and then
in
you multiply
inches.
those two
You
numbers
need to
together,
multiply.
right?
Look, check this
Times
out.
by-
Inches
2.54.
times centimeters.
I did the wrong one.
So you need, Jeff, you need 172.
10.
Sorry,
76.
Even.
No, 0.25.
2.54 times your inches.
Times your inches.
Is this right? Am I supposed
Well,
to
I
watch?
probably rounded. Is that
2.54 times.
See, I love that.
Does this look like what I should be multiplying together? No, Mom, I already did that first.
So that's kilometer or kilograms, and then you take
Sorry,
1079
I know,
times
your
we're
inches
fine.
times 6.25.
65.
That times 6.25.
Times.
So your centimeters
2.5.
times 6.25.
2.5.
It should be
But I thought you had
1079.5.
this somewhere now.
And then
What's
times
6.25?
65, no.
That's the first one.
65.
That's, so you see
Oh,
here,
you did the first one.
Oh, that's just part of the equation. Okay, never mind.
so that's, this set of the equation is taking 10 times our weight in kilograms, but we have to convert pounds to kilograms, right? So to do that, we jump down here and we take our weight and divide by 2.2. Once we get this number, we plug it in here and multiply by 10. Now we have our first number. Okay? That's our first number. Then we move forward into height. So we take our height, but our height has to be in centimeters, but we measure inches and feet. So taking our height in feet and inches, and just go inches instead, right? Make it easy. And take inches times 2.54 gives us our height in centimeters, and we can plug that in for h. And then multiply that out, and that's this number. And then for age, it's pretty straightforward, it's years. There's no metric for age. Thank gosh, right?
Yeah, really.
So we take 5 times our age and put that number here. And then order of operations, right? Does everybody remember that? Parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So we add and then subtract. Yep.
So what do we do?
Parentheses, multiply, divide, addition, subtract, right? PEMDAS, if you remember. So I have, this is my middle number, right? And so I'm 704.5 for my first one, which was my 10 times weight. And I add 625 times height, which is 1079.5. Because this was the 6.25 times my height. And then I subtract 155, because that's 5, times 31, which is my age.
Should I get like a number in the hundreds? 8,
You should get it in the, you should get high hundreds or low thousands, because think
Okay.
that's calories.
I think I
It takes
did
900 calories from a heart to beat every day. That makes about enough sense, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I
So,
did it.
nice.
I'm glad.
And then subtract 161.
I totally didn't do it.
I didn't either, there's no way.
I had to write the entire like how much
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at?
I'm
gonna help.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, no, we're doing it. Okay.
Well,
So what's your weight?
do it later, I don't really care to do it right now.
Yeah, the first one is
God.
yeah.
I have 1480. We can figure it out after the class.
10 times your weight.
I have no. Oh, okay, that's okay.
The weight in kilograms is 2.2.
There's no way.
The math is enough.
I'm not even breathing.
Oh, it's fine.
Did you do your times 10 on your kilograms? Is that where you
I don't
messed
know,
up?
maybe.
I can see, you figure out your. So great. So your first one, you got your
Yeah.
kilograms, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that's
you take your, first take your pounds divided by 2.2. And then you have to times that number
Yeah.
by 10. Did you do that?
I don't think I
Times
did.
that by
I
10.
almost maybe think.
That's probably where you messed up. That's what I.
Oh, boy.
Will you help me really quick?
Yeah.
I thought I did this right, but maybe I didn't.
I have 16 kids.
My first number should be bigger than that, right? It should be times 10.
What was your W?
Yep, it should be that. There you go.
Okay.
And then you add that. Yeah, it was like 800 calories. That's ridiculous for you. So let's just add 600 roughly
So-
speaking, right? Because that's what it'll end up being. Because you added 68, but you really
Yeah.
should have added 680, so I
Right.
just kind of guesstimated and said 600. So you're right around 14.
So this is gonna be for the first number 81, right?
Yeah, and then multiply that by 10.
No, I mean this number times 10.
So 881.
Okay, what's your height?
And then your height,
I'm 5'4", so I'd be 64.
64 times 2.5.
no, I didn't do that.
Yeah, because you're taller than
Yeah,
me, so her should be a little lower.
Like that? That's it?
Height times 6.25, yeah.
Why is mine so big?
Yours isn't big.
I like thought I did mine right, now I can't even.
No, you did it right, because look, you took this and you times by 625. You took hers, now you need to times by 625.
Oh, okay, that's what I.
2, 4.
Oh, you don't
Okay,
have to
so,
say, no, that was just.
so now take this number, 10 more
No, that's
minutes
because it's
plus
So,
0 minus this
and then,
one,
that's why it was actually.
240,
So age
minus 161. See, I bet, because I bet you didn't do the times 10.
I don't know.
I think that's what you did.
There you go. No, you just do it. Okay, I got this.
So you're like 1881 minus
Just to stay
100,
alive.
so
Oh,
1481,
God.
give or take.
1481. Good enough.
Like 1480.
Okay.
So what type of number should we end up with?
Between 1,000 and 1,500.
Oh, thank God, okay. I'm looking at the left
I'm
side
over.
and showing
I'm at
1.2.
Yeah, that's fine. Give or
I'm
take.
overweight.
No, it's because you're tall.
Oh. No, I am a little overweight, but.
It's 'cause no, the taller you are, obviously, the bigger the number, right? So that's
Oh, that's not much different. Just how many calories is on your body?
it's the constant factor in the equation.
Oh, gosh, what's the normal?
But we know which
We're
one
not
that
really
really
about
about.
1,500.
Oh, gosh, I'm a loser. 1,000 to
15 to 1,600. What did you get?
12.
12.2.
Oh, my gosh, it's not even less.
You're really tall now. Are you getting a high
What
number?
is your number?
It's
Yeah, you
732
probably-
minus 161.
Probably just forgot to multiply by 10 or 625 somewhere in there. So,
I did.
so this number should have been multiplied by 265.
Yeah, did you do that?
These contacts, I can't think of them. So that's why I just
It's-
don't know.
So the age times
Oh,
six,
right.
6.25.
Okay. I can do this.
I should have done it more organized where we found out all of our variables and then we plugged it in. Not a math teacher. So, we're not done yet.
Oh, gosh, I got 1,000.
Yeah.
No, I mean from my height.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Times 625, yeah.
So I'm 1,098.
No, this is just the equation.
So it's
You
just
already
the
got it.
equation, it's not your actual height. You didn't throw 1,000 inches in there. No, it's just a number in the equation.
So what was yours? So really 130. Yeah, I did mine wrong. Okay. I'm like, I'm not that tall.
We were bad in math together, okay?
Oh, we got kicked out.
We
Yeah.
decided to eat.
So, for those of you who do have your number, we're going to take into consideration your activity factor. So, find your number, and if you're sedentary, little or no exercise or a desk job, you're going to take your number and multiply by 1.2. Okay, because remember, this is just to keep you alive laying in bed. So, if you need to be upright, problem solving, sending emails, and sitting, it's going to be a little bit more than just that number. If, however, you're lightly active and you exercise 1 to 3 days a week, okay, so if you exercise 1 to 3 days a week, then we're going to do light and multiply it by the 1.375. If you're moderately active, 3 to 5 days a week, it's 1.55. If you're hard exercise, you play professional sports 6 to 7 days a week, then it's 1.725. And if you're extremely active, like you have a physical job where 8 to 10 hours a day, you're laying gravel, you're out in the sun working, breaking your back, then you multiply by 1.9.
Maybe very active.
Yeah, I'm normal.
Would you be considered moderate or hard? So what does your daily activity consist of? What do you do?
She's in the warehouse.
So you load and unload. Do you lift heavy packages for hours at a time, or is it?
Hours at a time.
Okay.
That's why I don't know if I'd be light to moderate. It just depends on the week, but.
Well, why don't
Be
you
conservative.
multiply it by both, and then you see on an easy week where you don't do a lot of heavy lifting, that's about what you're burning.
Yeah, no,
And on a busy week where you're burning like 3 to 5 days a week, you're putting stuff up, up and pulling stuff down consistently, then we can kind of see the range in which you want to live for caloric intake. Because that gives you an idea of exactly what you're using.
But I'm saying like, where I'm not at all.
So if you can,
I did it times it. I finally caught
you
up
get
and
to
now
it?
we got more math.
I did.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe
So
less
now what do I do with that?
so do you work out?
So what do we do?
Okay,
Just go
so
1.2.
multiply it times 1.2.
Oh gosh.
So you basically add 20% of those calories. So for me, if you can look on the board, bottom left, 1368, that's what I burned just laying in bed. So- Times that. So I would consider myself light to moderate depending on the week. So I need about 40 more % calories than that. So it puts me right around 18 to 1900. So you know on the back of labels when they say recommended daily allowance based on 2,000 calories, 2,500 calories, that's where they're getting that. They're taking our basal metabolism to stay alive, adding what they're guessing to be our average physical activity in a day, and saying most people need about 2,000. You work really hard, you need 25. So our daily recommended is on 2,000 calories. That's how they figured that number right here. You just saw it live. So now you know. And if that's based on 2,000 calories, but you only need 18 to maintain your lifestyle, then you need to take that 10% off of the daily recommended package because that's actually what you need for your picture. If you
And
need
that's why
20,
you gain weight based if you.
well, yeah, because it's based on a caloric intake that they're assuming you're burning or utilizing 2,000 calories. So you're like, okay, well, it's in my recommended daily allowance of carbs and fats. But if you're only burning 1,800, little known to you, that's in excess of 200 calories. You add that up over a month, it's almost 2 pounds of fat.
This is 2,000.
So this total that we have, the total we finished up with is what we should eat that or less to maintain or lose weight?
Yes, maintain or lose weight is eat the number that you found or calculated at the end of all of this, considering this entire equation and times your activity level. For you to maintain your current lifestyle and not keep packing on the pounds, you need to have that number or less. If you're eating that number or more, that is why you're gaining weight. That is why you can't lose weight. In most cases. Again, genetics, water, stress, those are a lot of variables to consider, but this is a rough idea for you.
Oh, no.
Why does it cost
Well, it is,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mind if I check?
No, no, no.
No?
It's either that or that.
Okay.
Jackie, why do you think, I'm gonna just ask, why do you think this is a common knowledge? Why do you think that?
They taught this in health class. They teach all of this in health class, but we don't pay attention or care or think about it. It's not reiterated. It's not like.
Well, I mean, like that, I've never calculated an equation like that before.
It is actually like national for schools. It's like a national thing
Like-
in health class between the
Oh.
ages of 5th grade and 12th grade. It has to be brought up in the school, just like the food pyramid does.
Well, there's a lot of things that have to be done. Don't get me
That
started.
aren't done. She
That's
knows.
definitely not.
She knows better than anyone.
Probably something
Yeah.
to skip over.
So for me, I remember actually doing this calculation and like, wow, sirens went off. Like, what am I eating? What are people eating? Like, I was 14 or 15 and in like, I think 9th grade or something. And wow, like, again, part of the puzzle for me for what I did as a vocation, right? But, because it meant something to me, like a lot. But most people, I don't think, understand what the calculation means. They're too busy trying to make sure it's right rather than assimilating and applying the information that, oh my gosh, I only need 1,800 calories and I eat 3,000 in a day. Like, no wonder I am in the physical state I'm in, you know, or I feel the way that I feel. So,
Yeah.
I want to do hers, but she won't let me.
Do it after.
She did it.
Oh,
We did it.
okay.
That's
So
it.
you-
Got it right.
That was
Yeah.
it, the 24
that's
to
it,
28.
Yes.
Okay,
That
so
was-
wow, you have a really active job.
It's not really, I don't know. Yeah, it is, but.
Yeah. Well, at least now
depends
you
on
know.
the day.
Now you have a target. So let's say if you wanted to like lose weight, maybe obviously with other things into consideration without looking at your genes and your thyroid stimulating hormone, if you ate 2,200 calories a day, you could burn easily 2 to 5 pounds in a month. If you paired that with eating foods that are low inflammation index and avoiding the Splenda and stuff, then that would even lower it. I mean,
I know.
not to
I
beat
will
a
not
dead
have
horse.
Splenda tomorrow. I will not have my Splenda tomorrow. Well, maybe I'll have one or two.
You gotta burn through that box. And you know what? I tell people
We just
too.
talked about this today.
If
Yeah,
you
we were
just went to
talking about
Costco and you buy big boxes of
I
stuff
just-
because you think it, yeah, because
That's
That's-
time in so
it's just
long.
what you use.
I
I
know.
always tell patients all the time, like you are taking a crappy vitamin, like that's up to you. If you just bought a bunch, take it, use it, eat it, and then make a date. Make a commitment and a date and say, when this box is over, when this bottle is through, when this whatever I just bought, I'm used up. That's the date that I start other lifestyle choices. Like that's the date I start incorporating different things. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a cool little like countdown for yourself.
Yeah.
10 packets left. So
I do.
this is a little bit about what negatively impacts our metabolism, and I know that took a lot longer than we were planning, so I will move quickly through the rest. So body mass. The more a person weighs, the harder their body has to work to support and maintain that extra weight. That's why you require more calories than some people here, right? Is because you were saying earlier, weight's a problem for you. You feel like you are overweight, so you probably have to burn more calories to maintain that weight. So body composition. Muscle burns more calories than fat. Easily 3 to 5 times more. If you're just sitting there right now, if you're a third fat and a quarter muscle and the rest bones and water, that muscle is working 3 times harder than that fat. So that's why when people say strength training is important, they're like, but I don't want to get bulky. It's like, it's not about being bulky necessarily. It's about shifting your percentage, your ratio of fat to muscle, okay? Because muscle's just going to sit there and burn more calories. So an athlete who's 6'2" and 200 pounds, or like an overweight, obese guy who's 6 foot and 250 pounds or 270 pounds, right? Technically, he's burning more calories even though he's bigger. Does that make sense? Because he's got more muscle. So age declines about 2 to 3%, closer to 3% every decade. So for me, I was like, I hit 30 and I don't know what happened. I can't eat ice cream the way I used to be able to.
That
And it-
happened to me.
Yep. It's like when I hit 40 or when I hit like 50, 51, like everybody says it's decades. And it really is metabolically, genetically, we just require less and less. We're not growing anymore after our 20s. In our 30s, we still need decent metabolism because technically we still want to make babies, genetically speaking, right? So we need calories there. But then into 40, we need even less. We're starting to slow down the regulation of making new collagen and skin cells, so we're aging and all that stuff, right? So by the time we're 60, we need very little food compared to what we did 30 years before because our metabolism is now 12 to 15% slower than it was 4 decades ago. Hormone imbalances. Hormones can increase or decrease metabolism. Okay, so if you have hormone issues as a woman, it's really important to get that checked because, again, high levels of the thyroid hormone produce a 15% decrease in metabolism. So the more your thyroid has to produce that hormone to tell the rest of your body, like, hey guys, wake up, turn on, remember it's like shaking you, then 15% decrease in metabolism. I just can't lose the weight. Well, that's why. You're slow. You have the metabolism of a 60-year-old when you're in your 30s or 40s because your thyroid is not communicating with the rest of your body. So the ovulation and luteal phase of a cycle can increase it by 5%. So that's why, which is really interesting, and they've done studies, the same woman during ovulation, picture of her face, no makeup. 2 weeks later, during her period, no makeup, same person, okay? And just quick fire at Harvard, quick fire pictures. If a man or a woman finds this person attractive, incredibly, the correlation is 50 to 70% higher attraction rate during ovulation. Metabolism is higher. We're glowy. We look a little thinner. We have higher energy. We're like, come on, world, make me pregnant. That's what we're communicating to the world when we're ovulating. That's nature's way of saying, hey, I'm ready, I'm ripe, let's go, right? That's why we have right in the middle of our cycle, if you still are having cycles, that increase in libido, that increase in energy. You look in the mirror and you're like, hey, not bad today. And then 10 days later, you're like, you know, and that's because that's nature's way of saying, I can't get pregnant, so don't look my way. It's very limbic, the way that we're put together. Yeah. That's why not why we bloat, but it tends to add to it. You know, our metabolism slows, our hormones are shifting, all that stuff is happening, we're breaking out, we're like swollen. It's like, stay away. So, yeah. So stress. Too much stress leads to overutilization of energy, causing food and sugar cravings. Like I said, the brain's like, hey, I need glucose. So you reach for a donut instead of an apple, okay? Stress will do that. And then we eat way too much sugar than what our body actually needs, so we store the rest, affecting our metabolism. Smoking and drinking both have significant impact on metabolism. Smoking can increase your metabolism by 7%. So when people quit smoking, a lot of times they gain weight. And it's because their metabolism is just baselining again. It's finding its natural rhythm. So a lot of people who, yeah, like it's a thing in the fashion industry.
People always say like when you quit smoking, you're thinner when you smoke.
That's
Isn't
why.
it a presumption that your body is just fighting off the chemicals that you're putting into it? I mean,
Oh, this is a terrible impact. It's such a negative because exactly the way it's shifting the pathway. The reason why you're burning so much is because your heart rate is increasing. Your body has no more oxygen in it, so it's fighting just to get the oxygen it needs to be able to function right, to think clearly, for our lungs to breathe, to oxygenate the blood. That's why metabolism increases when we smoke. And that's why, again, it ends up baselining, finding its foundation again when we go off of cigarettes. It's because, you know, and in addition, smoking kills taste buds. So when you stop smoking, taste buds can grow back. So, wow, sugar tastes sweeter, salt tastes saltier. That makes me want more foods because it tastes better, right? So now my metabolism is slowing down by 7%, and I can taste foods more. So where did that 20 pounds come from? That's where it comes from.
Is it smoking cigarettes or is it the tobacco?
It's both.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, if it was pure organic tobacco with no additives, it wouldn't spike it as high. because it wouldn't be suffocating you as much or affecting your metabolism as much as the formaldehyde and all the additives of actual cigarettes. But in most cases, we don't even American Spirits, which some of my patients come in, it's like the organic version of like, you know, fair trade tobacco. It still has some stuff in it. It's not nearly as bad as like a Camel or Marlboro or whatever is out there, but it's still not, you know, it's not the worst, but it's definitely not good for you. Not getting enough calories. So depriving the body of calories can actually slow metabolism in an effort to maintain homeostasis better. So that whole starvation mode, okay, our body thinks that we are literally going hungry. And so it's an opportunist, our body. So if we don't eat for periods of time and then we have that smoothie, well, I'm going to store most of it. I'll use some of it, but I'm going to store most of it because I don't know when that rainy day is coming. Like, we might not eat another 5 days and I need backup, right? So we end up slowing metabolism, storing those calories. We're not utilizing it to build healthy tissue and regenerate damage to cells. We're just trying to not die at that point, okay? Nourish versus stress metabolic states. So, if you can check most of these lines, then you have a pretty nourished metabolism. If you check at least 3 or more of these, then you have a stressed metabolism. So let's look at nourished. Normal body temp. Who runs cold? Who runs hot? Cold, hot? You're probably, then you don't run either. Yeah, so running cold, running hot. Oh, I just run cold. Oh, I just run hot. Guess what? Stress metabolism sign, right? So let's keep looking. Level moods.
How do you really know that though? Like just based on if you're cold or if you're hot or like temperature?
So if everybody else is in the room and they're totally fine and you're like, ooh, it's cold, you run cold. If you're like, I am burning up, I need the AC on, and everybody else in the room is fine, you run hot. It's a good way to gauge. So what about level moods? Is anybody quick to like anger, quick to sadness, quick to frustration, quick to, you know, you're just kind of, okay, there's a degree of error. You could totally, you know, having mood swings, there's a difference between like, I'm really agitated right now versus 0 to 60. Like you're just bombarded, right? Do you handle stress well? Do you have an inability to handle stress? Do you kind of break down? Do you get sick a lot? Do you have constipation, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting? Do you get headaches or migraines? Do you get rashes or skin stuff? That all lets me know that your body physically can't handle stress. Okay, so that's another sign of stress metabolism. Healthy hair, skin, and nails. Thinning hair. Hair places it should not be. Skin showing discoloration, fine lines. Sometimes, but not all the time. Brittle, chipped nails. Anybody have that? I have some patients who their nails physically, like, the layers will fray as it grows. Like, they won't grow in a straight.
I have one that's split all the time.
That's probably the nail bed that got damaged, and it just never healed.
But if you're so what?
I'm having ridges, more ridges than they were before, and I seem like, and my toenails seem to be more brittle than they were before.
So yeah, that is considered here. Brittle.
Medications.
Yeah, medication can definitely affect metabolism. I mean, think about how our body deals with medication, right? It has to be filtered through the liver. The liver is like really important with digestion and helping maintain homeostasis. So if it's affecting the liver, it's going to affect every other body part, basically, or system, excuse me. What about digestion? Good, healthy bowel movements. 1 bowel movement per day, sometimes 2. Any less, any more is a problem. Normal size, shape, and color. The shape should be a nice round, not thin like a pencil, not really thick and then thin and then thick. Consistent shape. Should be about Play-Doh-y / clay. Not fall apart when it hits the water and not fall apart when you flush. It should not float. It should not hit the water and then sink slowly. But if it plops like it's a bomb and you feel splashback, that's too dense of a bowel movement. I know it's funny to talk about poo, but it's so important for health. I mean, we've talked 20 minutes alone on poop before, because it really does. It lets me know what's happening. How's your body reacting to what it's taking in, right? Yeah, a whole show on poop. I believe it. So did Dr. Oz. So good sleep patterns. Can you? What's
I
that?
think he was on.
Oh, he was with her?
Yeah, I think so. Well, on her show.
Yeah. Good sleep patterns. Do you fall asleep within 15 minutes of your head hitting the pillow? Do you stay asleep all night? Do you sleep 7 to 9 hours a night? Do you wake feeling refreshed? Those are all in my intake for patients for gauging how your sleep is. Consistent energy. Do you have highs and lows? Do you have swings? I feel great after my morning cup of coffee, and then I eat lunch, and I'm just that 2:30 feeling. Stuff like that, that's over here. Oh, right here. Steady blood sugar versus blood sugar crashes. Do you get lightheaded, dizzy? You don't eat for 2 or 3 hours, and you're hangry. You're kind of angry, hungry. You know, you get kind of that, like, you have to brace yourself, or you stand up and you see the little peripheral. That's a sign of blood sugar stuff. Balance hormones and healthy sex drive. Do you have no libido? Do you have pain on intercourse, PMS symptoms, or menopausal symptoms? Hot flashes, pain, what was I just going to say? Oh yeah, swelling breasts, acne, all that stuff with PMS. Anything, migraines even. Here can be hormones. Okay, so think about headaches and hormones. Headaches and migraines when you think of hormones here. Does anybody fall into this category?
Yes. How many checkmarks?
At least 3 or more.
Oh, I know.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a lot of us. All right. Well, again, it's just reflection. I am not the metabolism or food police, just trying to educate to help empower. Okay? So, why can I say that word all of a sudden? Metabolism. Metabolism boosting foods. These foods, this is a great go-to list for you. They help support healthy metabolism, healthy blood sugar, they lower inflammation. All of those reasons are why they're happy, healthy metabolic foods. Now, these are foods that do it, but what are some ways? Water, half your body weight in ounces, plus 20 in the summer. I weigh 155. I go for about 75 to 80 normally, but in this desert in the summer, you need 20 more. So I shoot for about 100. So this water bottle, I have 4 to 5 of these a day because they're 27 technically, but I round down.
I'm worried for that. Not the same.
Speaking of which. Okay,
Can you tell me that calculation again? That water calculation, what did you say?
half your body weight in ounces. So take your body weight, cut it in half, or divide by 2, and then add 20. And
plus
that's
20
that's
plus
what you,
20 now.
yeah.
Right.
Well, see, I say plus 20 in the summer because we're sweating more and we're using more electrolytes and things like that. But if you eat a standard diet or you have sluggish metabolism in general all year round, you should shoot for the plus 20 year round.
Thank you.
Can you believe people pay me for me to tell them this stuff? Really?
I'm so thankful that we do.
I
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't get this otherwise.
just feel so lucky. Like, wow, that's incredible. So, keep reading through this list. I think you guys have it, but it's like really tiny. But it will be on YouTube, like the live version, so you can see full size, or I can email it to you in an electronic version, so you can keep it for yourself. Boosting your metabolism. I did want to talk about change temperature, 11. When we do hot and cold changes, we do like hot baths or saunas, and then we go into cool rooms or like the back and forth in hydrotherapy. That actually gives our body a chance to exercise its ability to adapt to temperature. And by challenging it to adapt, just like exercising a muscle and it getting stronger, our body's sense of metabolism and activity and temperature regulation gets stronger, and then we create a better foundation and baseline. Make sense?
How's that at your, that's what you were talking about.
Hydrotherapy?
Yeah, hydrotherapy.
Yeah, I love hydrotherapy. It's really cool. Yep. So hydrotherapy is, for those of you who may want to know, I lay you down on the table and I put hot towels on your somatic area, which is basically from your hip bones up to your clavicles. And then I wrap you up like a little baby in a wool blanket. I put a sheet to protect you from the wool if you get itchies. And you sit there for about 15 minutes. And all because it's hot there, what happens when we're hot? Everything, our vessels, which are like little hoses, they dilate and become large. So blood and oxygen and nutrients and everything our body doesn't get internally is flooded with nutrients and oxygen and good stuff. So then I open you back up, like, not you, but the wool blanket, and I do what's called a cold flash. It's really icy cold towels that I just slap right on. So it takes the dilation and shoots it to constrict. So all that blood that was just pooling there and cleaning out all that toxic mess that just sits there that we don't move is now thrust back into the heart, into the lungs, reoxygenated to get clean, right? So then I take the cold off and I put warm back on and wrap you up, and then you sit for another half hour. And then all that constricted vessels redilate to bring even newer, cleaner oxygen and nutrients to all of the vessels through all your organs. So it's kind of like a workout for your organs. And people leave feeling amazing. They're calm, they're relaxed, they're parasympathetic. All of their organs are functioning at a better rate. Now they're dumping into their colon all of that bad stuff that they were holding on to between tissues and fascia, like surrounding our organs. And now that's part of our detox protocol, is to get a hydrotherapy every week. Ideally twice a week, but let's be realistic. People are busy and schedules. Just during a detox protocol. So once a week for 4 to 6 weeks. So, and we also do castor oil packs, which is a whole other class. But yeah, that's again part of the cool detoxy stuff we could get into. Go ahead.
On that previous one, I
Yeah.
wasn't done.
Oh.
Where it says, on the 15,
Stretching.
number 5 says spices and diet. Is that only hot, or is that just like anything like turmeric or whatever?
Turmeric is great. It's basically anything. When you think of like an exotic spice, think health and antioxidant, okay?
It's not like hot food?
No, not necessarily spicy as in hot. Spices as in besides salt and pepper, okay? So if you have
Cinnamon, right?
cinnamon is amazing for regulating blood sugar, okay? Turmeric, very anti-inflammatory. Ginger is considered a spice, and that's anti-inflammatory and a carminative, which means it helps digestion. Okay, so all those things that it's like, that's why, honestly, a lot of East Asia and Mediterranean cultures lack a lot of the diseases we do. A, because they live a less stressed life. They're given like 6 to 8 weeks of vacation, not just 2. And B, because their diet is rich in really great fatty acids and high quality proteins and spices. I mean, if you think about the aggregate effect of having turmeric in a curry every day for lunch, and that's their lifestyle, every single day they're doing something to fight inflammation. Where us is like, oh, let's go to Indian food once a month. That's really not going to do the trick. Maybe it helped that day, but not long standing.
Well, kind of on that same thing, I try to incorporate more spices in, but I am lost. When is it actually benefiting me? Am I not doing enough? I can't find anything that tells me the amount.
Definitive amounts. Okay, so when we're using turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, or anything as a treatment, the therapeutic index, okay? So we have what's called therapeutic index in medicine. That's how they know how to 2 pills twice a day. How do they figure out that dosage? Well, this is the activity. This is when the action starts. The body starts fighting inflammation. This is when the body has way too much and it's just going to excrete the rest. It's pointless in saturation. So this is the sweet spot, right? And that's when it comes to everybody's different. Your sweet spot is a lot broader than my sweet spot because right now we're working to clear more inflammation for you than what I currently have, right? So what the goal is if you treat utilizing supplements, it's going to be straightforward because the concentration has been studied, right? And it's 1,500 milligrams in 2 caps. Have 2 caps a day because about 1,500 milligrams is good for this specific spice. If it's part of our daily diet, however, you really can't have too much because you're putting such a minuscule amount in a curry or in a dish or like, a dinner that it's more the aggregate effect. The fact that your body's being exposed to that anti-inflammatory or that de-stressing substance a little bit every day, that's what's going to add to it. Is it going to be therapeutic? Probably not until it's 3, 6, 12 months and it becomes a lifestyle at that point. Does that make sense? Okay. Sometimes I feel like I get confusing. Okay. Any other questions on this slide? Awesome. You can change your metabolism. That's the good part. Yay! So, because we've already discussed you really are what you eat, the quality of what you eat turns into the quality of energy produced, and it directly affects metabolism, mood, weight, and a bunch of other issues. So, it can actually be changed and upregulated or downregulated based on lifestyle, your stress, your environment, internally and externally. I think this is cute. What fits your busy schedule better, exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? And sometimes that's what it takes to get through to people. And sometimes I say that, in one ear and out the other. It's like, I don't think we as a culture, because we're so focused on instant gratification, we're not built to think long term, right? And so we have this theme right now where people are, retiring poor and sick because they didn't think the long term. Oh, a penny today is $1 tomorrow. Oh, a glass of water today is less, hypertension tomorrow. And so you really have to work to reframe. If this is like a new lifestyle and foundation, you really do want to get better. It's not a magic pill, it's not a magic diet, it's not, your life's going to change in 4 weeks. It's little synchronistic things that add up together to create a healthy lifestyle and foundation. That's what health is. That's what preventative medicine is, It's the whole penny today, $1 tomorrow idea. So you eat well today, so you feel great in 20 years. So whatever helps you maintain the eye on that prize and motivate, because I know for me it's like, but I want it now. It's like, it's really challenging sometimes. But for me, it's thinking about my grandmother and how on my father's side, nobody lived past 60. Because, they were just sick people who unfortunately didn't have a great lifestyle. They were really stressed out, and half of them smoked and or drank a lot. But on my mom's side, they're Wisconsin farm people, and everybody's lived to their 90s, especially the women. And so I think about my 90-year-old grandmother who's still gardening and goes to her social knitting class, and she's not on any medications. And she actually had a hysterectomy 8 years ago and healed. I don't know, that's a whole nother issue with the discussion with her doctor. But she got through it, she healed, and she's fine, and she's still kicking. She is a kicker. She's a kicker. So anyway, whatever helps you maintain that mind frame to stay motivated for the long haul, this is really what that is. That's kind of what I'm educating on. Well, it helps short term, of course. I mean, I've had people anti-inflammatory diets for 60 days, and just by changing what you eat, not working out, not changing your stress, which ideally will happen, but just that one factor alone, almost effortlessly, they say, they've lost 20 pounds, which gives them more energy to be able to work out and gives them more energy to actually stop and think about what they're saying or how they're reacting, and they become more proactive. So it's like one good habit breeds another. That's basically the bottom line there. So, daily life log review. Did anybody actually maintain it consistently? I did. Okay. Yeah.
I did it this week.
Well, that's good. Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Oh no!
I love to eat food.
No internal dialogue like that. I love to eat food rather than I'm a fatty.
You're not allowed.
I love to eat.
Oh, I do too.
We had a
Love
potluck
food.
at work today. It was like great.
I will take everything.
Yeah. I'll just have all that.
Man, I love it too. Well, that's good. It's good awareness, right? So now you can kind of, for me anyway, I have to have like that splurge day because I
Yeah.
don't want to hold back. It's like,
can't.
I just want to have a day where I don't really have to think about anything because I think about a lot and stress about a lot and plan my food, and it's nice to like have a no alarm day and then eat whatever you want. And that's, again, just like body temperature, it gives your body the opportunity, unless you're suffering from an autoimmune or an actual diagnostic issue or disorder, if it's just a weight thing or an energy thing, that gives your body a chance to adapt to a new internal environment. And so it's like those kids who are sheltered from, don't go outside, don't play in the dirt, don't do anything, those kids tend to have worse immune systems because they haven't been exposed to anything or given an opportunity to have to adapt to fighting those things off to become stronger. And our body and metabolism is the same way, healthy splurge is totally fine. It's just moderation, not eating till it hurts, or not eating because you're stressed that day, or if you're craving, really think about, okay, cravings only last 12 to 15 minutes. So if I can do something to distract myself for 20 minutes, I won't want that donut anymore. I won't want that square of chocolate anymore. So I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk. And 9 times out of 10, the craving dissipates and you just replaced it with a healthy habit. So it's little tweaks. You can still love to eat, I promise. So complete the weekly self-care plan. So I created, you can kind of see there's like every week and then a line in one of your handouts. So the weekly care plan, it's really loose. It's pretty blank. It just gives you weekly outlines to give yourself one healthy goal a week to accomplish. It doesn't have to be every facet of your life or your being. It can just be, I want to focus on getting my 90 ounces of water this week. That's it. And that's week 1, goal done. Week 2, I want to focus on eating 30 grams of protein a day, and I know I don't. I want to consciously be aware, right? So it's building. So as you go on to the next week to set a goal, you have to maintain week 1. That's the trick. You can't just go from one to the next. It's aggregate. So if week 1 is your water, week 2 is your protein, week 3 is no Splenda. then then you have to, by week 3, you have to be drinking the water, having the protein, and avoiding the Splenda. So it all adds up. So by the week 6, week 7, you're doing all of those healthy habits. And you did it little tiny steps at a time. You didn't have to change who you were overnight. You have to slowly build to be that person. And that's only 6 weeks from now. So the next thing is, well, continue to apply all you've learned, of course, but for these, that's the care template that we just went over, and then the metabolism infographic, which I think is really rad. And I'll show everyone at home on YouTube. This is the My Weekly Care Plan. Add your goal here, every goal for 7 days, 7 weeks, however you want to measure it, and make sure you maintain that goal throughout. Then the infographic. I thought this was really cool. So everybody is different, obviously, so it's not a hard and fast rule. I can't pull it up on this one, but I'm doing it for the YouTubers at home. Just so you can read through. Hopefully you have a life-size version, right, in your packet? Okay, that's what it looks like, everyone, just so you see. So it explains a little bit about metabolism, eating healthy fats, and what those foods are that contain those healthy fats. Eating every 3 to 4 hours, small meals, how much water to drink, sleep, avoid restricting diets. Anything under about 1,300 to 1,500 calories, you're technically starving yourself and you're going to gain all that weight right back. So when people say, I'm on the HCG diet and I only eat 500 calories a week, or I mean a day a week, a day, and I've lost 30 pounds this month. Okay, go off of HCG and start eating just 1,500 calories, even less than your basal metabolic rate. They're going to gain back that weight that they lost plus about 10 to 20%, okay? Because that's how your body, that's you directing your metabolism. When I was like, you can change it. You can also change it for the worse, right? You can change it for the better with all these things that we're applying. So, eat more to lose weight. We don't want to restrict calories here. Again, it's not necessarily calories in, calories out. It's quality. It's going to feed our metabolic pathways, what's going to help our brain function better, our muscles burn more calories, things like that.
I think that's true though, because I weigh myself every morning. And sometimes when you think, oh, I had that bowl of ice cream last night, it's going to suck for me the next morning, it really doesn't all the time. So I think that's true. But like you said, you know, some of you guys still have that fat and that sugar in moderation. So.
Totally. Oh, same thing for me. It's like I feel like sometimes overnight I see it on my thighs, and other times I'm like, I got away with it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, wow.
You're like, ooh. But then you're like, maybe I can do it again. And then you do it again. You're like, no, I can't do it again. So I'm going to stop this recording for everybody. Stop and